Agent Carter ended with its second season in March of 2016. This end definitely left viewers with a sour taste in their mouth, and unfortunately this is because their story was far from over. In this video I will share with you what Agent Carter Season 3 would have entailed. Our first source of information comes from Hayley Atwell herself, the actor who plays Peggy Carter, where she explained what the plans were for Season 3 at a Heroes and Villains Fan Fest in 2017. She specifically said that the show would have explored Peggy's English upbringing and the major effect that her brother had on her life in more detail than that of what we saw in Season 2, as well as her relationship with the Jarvis family. If we dive more into the English upbringing aspect of this, we did see some of that in Season 2, whereas I don't think we got any in Season 1, and I think they were definitely testing the waters of that during Season 2. It was definitely a very interesting part of Season 2, as we got to see her family ties and her introduction into becoming a spy, essentially. I think Season 2 handled it well enough, but it was setting up to see more of that. The relationship with the Jarvis family is also another interesting plot they could have used, because we obviously see his wife introduced in Season 2, and they have a more like family connection in that season, and it's so much fun to have. We also had the plot in Season 2 where Anna got shot at the end, and we didn't really see that go any further. It happened towards the later half, so that makes sense, but obviously with the whole plot of her being unable to have kids, we might see that affect Jarvis, and because Peggy technically was the reason for Jarvis doing these missions, you might see that conflict a bit more, and I think that could have been really interesting. Our second source for this video comes directly from a creator of the show, Jose Molina, who gave us more information on a potential Season 3 whilst in an interview with Den of Geek. He revealed that the main plot would basically revolve around the assassination attempt of Jack Thompson. He states that they were hoping, if their budget allowed them, to make the story in a way that it would lead them to London, where we would learn about Peggy's dead brother Michael, except only he's not dead, he's alive and out there. Except he's now involved with some very nefarious, super villainous shenanigans, to quote his exact words. If we were to break this down again, calling it an assassination attempt on Jack Thompson means he will survive, which I really like, because his character was so well done in this show, and I think they really utilized him well and explored it well. And when I watched that for the first time, I was like, there is no way they leave it on that with him dead. So if we were to ever see this continued, I at least love knowing that. I think killing him off at that time as well would be a terrible decision. Next, he talks about leading them to London, and I honestly think that would be amazing, because although I thought initially before watching the show it was all based in New York, when it then goes to LA, it feels odd to start with, but it's so much fun. Like, it's just really exciting and it feels new. And I think if you went to London, it would create this, just again, another sense of freshness. It would then allow you to explore her heritage, like Hayley Atwell said, because she's in her hometown. Like, this is where she grew up. It's the prime area, the perfect area to actually open up those doors. Now, I think the whole thing of having someone super close to you die and then they're not actually dead and now they're evil is something that happens in a lot of things. But I think for this show, it could have worked purely because we don't know enough about him that it wouldn't feel odd. In other things and other shows, it's someone that you know a lot about, you care about, and then they'll bring them back and it just feels completely out of place. If you are currently enjoying the video, please take the time to give it a like so I can continue to make more content like this, and comment down below any theories you may have about this forgotten season. Anyway, continuing on. These next few ideas for potential Season 3 plot lines are not directly for Season 3, but just something that could have happened in the future of the show should it have continued. So these sources are straight from the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show. This is going to be a slight spoiler warning if you somehow haven't seen it, and it's an amazing show, so I don't want to spoil it if you haven't seen it. So go watch that now if you haven't. But in Season 7, Agent Sousa from Agent Carter shows up, and we get a bit of information about what happens between when he appears in that show and the end of Agent Carter. Now, we learn that he appears in this S.H.I.E.L.D. season 8 years later, give or take, meaning a lot of stuff could happen. So what I'm about to say could have happened 5 years after the show, or it could have happened in Season 3 right after. All this information comes directly from episode 3, titled Alien Commies from the Future, which, perfect title, by the way, for that episode. And we get revealed a few things. One is that they take down Hugh Jones and the Council of Nine, which I didn't realize that was their name, because I don't think they ever explicitly said that in Agent Carter, but that is the group that all met up in that club in Season 2, and Hugh Jones was part of it. Calvin Chadwick was also part of this council, and we saw them killed off at one point, as well as Whitney Frost boss who eventually killed many members and took it over. So it's interesting to see that they defeated that. Season 2 left on a cliffhanger where they were given one of their pins and shown it was a key from Thompson. I don't know if that would have necessarily got resolved in season 3 if they had got that season, but it is a possibility. And if they had many other seasons, they could have done this too. So it may not have been a thing that was concluded in that season, but potentially. So I thought I'd add it in this video. We are not specifically told that his and Peggy's relationship ends. However, when he hears news that Peggy Carter is at the base he goes to in Area 51, he looks very excited, like he hasn't seen her in a while, and very confused at the same time, which means they must not have had any interaction for a good few years. So we could have easily seen their relationship end in this season. Again, if the show continued, they could have handled this in later seasons, but you could easily have a time jump at the start of the season. So they've had a relationship going and then some conflict happens in the season and they go their separate ways. In episode 9 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. season 7, titled As I Have Always Been, he also seems to not have any grudges against her when talking to Daisy, and using how he reacts in episode 3 as well, it kind of makes me seem they ended on good terms. So although there could have been a conflict causing them to separate, I don't reckon it would have been anger or hatred. It may have been something completely different, like they get separated. You know, they both work for the SSR. It might be that they get put at different places, and the long distance just does not work in the 40s. Now, it's such a shame that we didn't get the season 3. I think it could have been, honestly, the best season of the show. Whilst I thought a few things of season 2 were weaker than the first, I think the setting and the comedy was better. It seems very strange at the reasoning behind them cancelling it, because apparently it was bringing in more people than S.H.I.E.L.D. Like, I personally love S.H.I.E.L.D. and I'm so glad that didn't get cancelled, but it was bringing in more people. They just wanted her in a more mainstream show, which then eventually got cancelled anyway. So I'm not sure what's up with that. Sadly, I don't think we'll have any of these things actually come to life, but I just like exploring what could have happened and what maybe will happen. And honestly, that's enough for me. That's all I have for today. Thanks for watching though. If you have made it this far, you're probably also a fan of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and I highly recommend you watch this video next.